Welcome to our new series,
We're here to answer your burning questions about real estate.
Home Talk with the Homies.
Okay, so we have a question from a follower about when is the best time to even reach out to a real estate agent if you're in the buying process or really the selling process too. And so we just want to kind of talk about at what point it makes the most sense and our opinions on that.
I feel like the earlier the better, but there's kind of different stages. So let's kind of break it into both buying and selling. We'll start with buying. So you kind of don't want to start looking at a ton of houses until you've spoken with the mortgage lender and gotten pre-approved so you know what your budget is and you're not looking at houses that are way under or over your price range, right? So I feel like that's a really good first step before looking at a lot of houses. But way before that, I think that you should have an idea of which realtor you want to work with, who you want to be your buyer's representative. And there's a couple different ways to do that. One, I think it's a really great way to get started by going to open houses. I think that gives you a feel for the real estate market way before you're ready. You can start doing that a year or 2 years, 5 years before you're ever ready to buy a house. But don't wait 5 years to buy a house because that just doesn't make sense. So going to open houses gives you a feel for what you can buy in different price ranges. It also gives you an opportunity to meet different realtors and see who you vibe with, see what their style is. Also ask friends and family for recommendations. And also take the time to interview different realtors to ask some of those, questions that will give you a good idea of how experienced they are. How often are you selling houses? I'm really big on, I think people should work with somebody who's selling houses every week. The real estate market changes so quickly. So if they're working with somebody who sells 5 or 6 houses a year, they haven't sold a house in a couple of months, the real estate market is way different right now than it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to work with somebody who is selling quite often. But also then once you find the realtor you feel comfortable working with, I think start looking at houses 3 months before you feel like you're ready for sure to close. Because it gives you a couple of months to find until you absolutely have to find something. And then if you end up finding something a little bit sooner, sometimes you can have a longer closing window or sometimes you decide to go ahead and move in quicker than you thought you were going to.
I think you made a really good point about going to open houses and seeing just the realtors that you meet and seeing the vibe, because that is a huge thing when you're working with someone to make such a large purchase. You need to feel like you can trust them. Yeah. You need to feel comfortable speaking open and honestly with them. And if you don't have that connection or that vibe with them, it's going to make it a lot harder throughout the whole process. So I definitely agree with what you said there. I do think it also helps to see, because a lot of the time the person hosting the open house is on the listing team or the listing agent. I think then you can see how they market their own listings and what they do, to potentially bring buyers into their listings, because that's going to talk a lot about how much effort they're putting into maybe finding your dream home that you want to purchase too. So I think just getting to know the styles of different realtors, meeting multiple realtors, and yeah, like you said, taking recommendations from friends and family, also kind of digging into socials. Who's present on social media, and like you said, just active in the market, but also just working to build their business and, do what's best for their clients.
A great part of social media, and I think this is something that is really important to us as a team, is we want to show our personalities on social media. And it's so important, like you just said, to vibe with your realtor. And not, sometimes people, their realtor social medias are like generic graphics that they pull from some website, but we do an excellent job of explaining who we are.
If we say so ourselves.
We think so.
At all.
So I think, looking at social media is important. Now, if a realtor has poor social media, that doesn't mean they're a poor realtor, but it's an excellent place to start.
Maybe a poor listing agent.
Right.
It is. I think that's a good place to start, especially if you're already scrolling on your phone, you're scrolling on Zillow or wherever you're looking at homes. It is not hard to find realtors in Columbia, Missouri,
Yeah.
and find their socials and see what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to tell you a lot about them.
So a realtor that you vibe with, a realtor who is busy and but not too busy for you. You know, they still have to have enough time or the right systems in place that you may feel like you're their only client, even though they have lots of clients, right? Somebody you vibe with, but also, you know, that you feel like can be honest and that you can have tough conversations with and that you can trust, but also somebody you enjoy spending time with, I think is so important because you probably are going to be spending a lot of time together. Somebody who can make the experience fun and lighthearted when necessary, but also know their stuff, right? You don't want to work with somebody who gives you the ick. You don't want to work with somebody that, like, when they pull up to show you the house, you're like dreading getting out of the car talking to them. Yeah. And I mean, to a certain extent, we feel the same way on the other side, right? Like we want to work with clients that, we can relate well to, and that also like, you know, want to have fun with it and vibe well with us. Yeah.
And I love it when we meet people and we work with them and, you know, their clients in closing, and then a lot of times they become good friends and we stay in touch with them, you know, doing business type things. But I just love the personal connection. That's the best part of the business, in my opinion, is meeting people who I wouldn't have met either. You know, what am I trying to say? Meeting people who I wouldn't have met otherwise. And then now they're just like a part of our lives. This spring, my husband and I are going to fly to North Carolina to go to their destination wedding. You know, these people I sold a house to a few years ago. Like that is probably my favorite part of this job.
Yeah. You get invited to a lot of dinner parties.
I do.
Hey, I got holiday cards from clients where they're announcing their pregnancy. They just moved into their house and they're texting me like the ultrasound pictures, like, we're going to need that nursery sooner than we thought. And it's just so exciting because we're able to celebrate with them even after they've bought their house.
Yeah. I love that.